and he's done scientific, Ask the Experts. He's wrote books. So this individual is a great presenter. He can also talk in layman's terms. He's got a lot of degrees, but he can talk in layman's terms also, and that's what he does. But he uses scientific research to go along with that. So that will be in October. I think it's 28th. Is that correct, Christy? The 28th at the same time, 12 o'clock. So that'll be Dr. John Sottery. One thing I also wanted to share with you is because of the COVID environment, we still are. So we will be doing things like I've been doing a lot of virtual training. I can do virtual consultation. I just did a machine guarding. It seemed to work pretty well. So if your company needs some kind of, and this will be any of our services, this would be ergonomic, industrial hygiene, kind of does something a little bit different, but at least in the safety side of things, we are doing virtual consultations. We're also reviewing safety programs. So with that, I think I'm going to throw it back to Christy. Thank you very much.
Self off mute there. Thank you much. And our speaker today is no stranger to us here at the Safety Council of Southwestern Ohio. Our friend Tony, always great energy. He is the CEO and co-founder of Ving, who has presented a few times before. Always lots of fun, and we always learn good things. And this is your element, isn't this virtual new world we're all living in?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like working in the virtual world, especially these days. But I do prefer being out in the field on speaking days, that's for sure. It's always nice to have be in front of a live audience and get an opportunity to meet some of the people that are in the room.
Well, we are happy to have you. As I probably mentioned before in his bio, he's got over 25 years of professional experience developing business models, public speaking. He leads his company. It's an emerging safety training and employee compliance tracking technology company. So like I said, we have lots to learn from you, and I will pass it over to you and mute myself.
Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and get that started here. Christy, just give me a thumbs up. You can see my screen, right? Great. Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is a safety technology in the workplace program webinar. And really the whole objective of this particular webinar is really to get you thinking, to spark some insights and new ideas. The whole idea behind it is, you might not walk away and immediately implement one of these specific technologies, but you might be thinking and get you thinking outside of the box. We're going to review a wide range. It's tech within reach, I like to say. These are things that are budget friendly and tech that might be a bit too out of reach, but it's certainly very intriguing. And maybe it's something you plan for the future. There's a variety of products that I've picked throughout my travels and discussions, and we work with a lot of different safety companies all across the country, a lot of different customers coast to coast, and they all have different types of technology installed in their locations. And so I just kind of inventory it throughout the year, and then I tend to pick things that fit into this category of tech in reach, but all the way to tech that's intriguing. So they've been randomly picked. The only product in this entire presentation that I'm affiliated with, of course, is Ving. I don't represent any of these other products. I just think they're very interesting, very practical, some of them, and can be immediately used in your organizations. Excuse me. One of the things is that you want to just walk away from today with a plan on how to explore and try out new tech in your organization. Just remember, you don't always have to take the big leap, right? You might think in terms of getting one piece of technology versus a piece of technology for all 300 employees or all 50 employees, and try it out and see how it works. So don't be thinking 100% across my whole organization, unless that's the way you like to think. Be thinking about maybe this is something we can try out. So as usual, you know, I like to do audience insights if you've ever attended one of our sessions down there at Southwestern. And this session is no different. So if you'd like to participate, it would be great. It's a good way for us virtual speakers to be able to have virtual eye contact with you and know who's out there and paying attention. So you can use your cell phone for this. All you want to do is go to your normal text messaging app. And in the to field, the phone number you're going to use is 22333. And then you're going to text TD126 to that phone number of 22333. And you will automatically be entered into the online session. And you'll get a confirmation that you are. These texting instructions are at the top of every slide as well. So this is an easy one we can start with. What you want to do is join the session by texting TD126 to that phone number, 22333. You don't need the dash. And then just select your reply, A, B, C, or D. So you'll be pretty much ready to go. Here we go. We've got respondents coming in already. And it's always good to know who's sitting out there. So we've got some company owners or officers of their company, safety managers. I'm going to give people just a couple of seconds more to figure their texting out and get their responses in. Again, the phone number you're texting to is 22333. And then the very first thing you type in is TD126. And the system will tell you, hey, you've joined. And then you can start replying. You never have to type that in again. You just type the letter that corresponds to your reply from this point forward. Okay, great. And we've got all kinds of up and down bars going there as people go in and chime in. Thank you so much for actively participating in polling. Let's just ask a couple of more questions and then we'll get started with the content. I'm always really interested as well in learning about the challenges people face. This is a question I ask every time I speak, and I'm speaking about weekly now that everybody's doing virtual webinars, and we're gathering this information across the board. So basically what you want to do is just select A, B, C, or D. You don't even have to separate it with a comma if you don't want to. And you can select as many that apply to you and your particular organization. Tracking employee training progress is typically a challenge for people out there in the field, but it's almost always dwarfed or tied with pulling people off the job. And without a doubt, trainee attention span. These are some areas that new technology can really help you out and to take your safety culture and your training program to the next level. There's all different types of technology out there that combat the attention span, that help you with training progress, and definitely with minimizing how much you're pulling people off the job. And then the last question before we get into the content here is focusing in on, have you adopted any safety technology at your company in the past 12 months? So this is any kind of thing. I like to say if you plug it in, it's technology in some respect. So getting you kind of thinking about your company here and whether or not you have committed funds and actually gone out and implemented something new. One of the reasons this question is really important for you to focus in on at the onset of this workshop is that if you haven't looked at new technology and safety in the past 12 months, then odds are two things you're missing out on. One is brand new innovation, and two, dramatic price drops. And the analogy that I always like to give is look at your big plasma screen TV that we have in our house. The very first ones were thousands of dollars. And today you can go out and buy the same thing for 200 bucks. And so in a year, prices drop significantly. So that technology that you saw at Safety Congress maybe 2 years ago, or you saw it at the National Safety Congress event in some other city, maybe that safety technology has dropped in price and is now optimized for your budget. So let's go ahead and talk about different types of technology that are emerging and that I'm seeing across the country in businesses on a regular basis. So these things are not just one-offs. These are things that we're seeing all the time in different companies, whether they're wall-to-wall technology and using it that way, or if they're literally just putting their big toe in the water and trying it out. One of the things that I'm starting to see a lot of is virtual and augmented reality. It just literally, the price points are coming down dramatically. It used to be that every headset that you bought was thousands of dollars. Now you can get them for $10. And you could literally implement your own virtual or augmented reality safety training. One of the things to know before we look at a couple of options here is that research shows the more senses we involve, the more likely we are to retain and reuse information. So think about your typical traditional training course where everybody's just sitting in the room and listening to a speaker push information at them. We're not really involving a lot of different senses. But once we start doing virtual reality and people are feeling it and seeing it, things really start to change. NIOSH did a study of participants and they divided them into two groups. One group, it was all about escaping an office building while it was on fire. And one group actually wore virtual reality glasses, and they actually put the scent of smoke in the room and a heater that blew heat at these people. And the other group just did a typical PowerPoint. And it was really interesting what they found. They found the people that went through the typical PowerPoint were able to recall more information within the hour after training, but exponentially less information on fire safety and escaping that burning building over time than the group that went through virtual reality and multiple senses. They also found that the group that used virtual reality and multiple senses was more highly engaged with the content throughout the entire process. Whereas the people that were sitting just looking at PowerPoint tended to be unengaged in the learning process. And when people are unengaged in the learning process, it falls off dramatically as far as their retention. So let's go ahead and take a look at and hear from some folks that have invested a lot of time and energy in developing virtual reality. These two individuals have worked with thousands of safety professionals across the country and developed virtual reality for a variety of different companies and a variety of different industries across the country.
So why
Christy, can you hear the audio?
VR for training? Comes down to a fundamental aspect of the technology. It's a connected learning environment. We're actually in the learning experience versus just passively watching. That's the advantage.
In VR, you're immersed in the content. There is a connection that viewers have when they're in an environment, and they're able to look all around. They're able to take in all the senses of sight, hearing, and emotion that comes with being in a low incidence, high risk scenario. And that can be anything from a pediatric trauma patient coming through the doors of a critical care access facility to training for an active shooter situation.
So immersive training technology has many benefits. One of the three that really stick out is increased interest and engagement. People are excited about being in the experience because they're actually in it, which leads to better impact. The impacts their whole learning experience. And what does that actually give us that everybody really wants? Higher retention rates. If we can have our students walk away from the learning experience and understand the content and retain it, it's a win for everybody.
We spend a lot of time talking to our clients to better understand what challenges they're facing in the training industry. And one trend that we're seeing right now is how to connect with adult learners in a more effective manner. We've got the solution. It's virtual reality. You should see these people when they put the headsets on. At first, they may feel a little disoriented. That's a fact. But when but then they put it back on again. And then they put it back on again. And sometimes it's hard to get the headset away from them. But the truth of the matter is, there's excitement there. Adult learners want something new. They want something fresh. And we're able to provide that.
What makes this technology affordable is the fact that it uses simple app-based distribution, just like you would on any mobile phone. And that it's iOS or Android, and it's all driven by a learning management system that serves up the content and keeps track of everything for the organization.
Virtual reality training is going to be the biggest and most impactful advancement that the training industry has seen, period.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always like to point out about this is that imagine having a safety training class where you could hear the buzz around the manufacturing facility or the warehouse that, oh my gosh, it's my turn to get to go to safety training. When have you ever heard anybody get excited about going to safety training? These kinds of technologies help you up your game around your safety culture. You don't need to go buy 300 headsets. You could literally go out on the internet today and you could buy half a dozen headsets for probably under $100, and then you just drop your cell phone right in it with one of the apps that are provided with them, and do some basic training around some key things that get done around the manufacturing facility warehouse on a regular basis. And then you change that attitude that people have around going to training because you've mixed it up. Augmented reality. Many of us have heard of Pokemon and people running around holding their phones up and seeing little creatures projected onto the screen. It's just a huge aspect in retail at the moment. Being able to see that couch or that painting or that color of that room overlaid around your own house just by holding your phone up. Well, we're starting to see a lot of augmented reality on construction sites as well. This is a really interesting quick look as to how people are using augmented reality for people like new hires or people who are getting sent to a project site for the first time. Before they come into harm's way, they can actually hold their phone up, scan the construction site, scan the manufacturing floor, and it's going to pop up on the screen when there are items of danger or of special interest that the person walking through that area needs to know about.
Safety is a vital part of every workplace, yet safety information can be difficult to navigate and implement on site. Imagine an app that gives you access to critical site information wherever you are. Safety Compass is the answer. With live, up-to-date data at your fingertips, notifications will warn you of surrounding hazards the moment you step onto the job site. The Safety Compass utilises augmented reality technology, allowing you to identify potentially hazardous areas through your smartphone in real time. The Safety Compass uses assisted GPS technology to accurately pinpoint hazardous areas within a multitude of work sites, including construction, mining, and manufacturing. With the tap of a finger, you can expand on any identified hazard, allowing access to all associated safety information. With an easy-to-use interface and interactive mapping technology, everyone can stay up to date every minute of the day. The Safety Compass. Real-time safety in your pocket.
Now, just imagine sending somebody out to the work site for the first time, and maybe they're even a new hire and they're not real familiar with construction and working on construction sites. And before they walk onto the site, their job is to hold up their phone and it automatically senses areas where they should be concerned about objects falling, areas they need to be concerned about maybe where there's holes in the ground or heavy equipment that's being operated frequently. And we can't be with every employee all the time, every day. So it's our job to think outside the box and think about how might we be able to use technology to really call attention to their surroundings. Now, another technology that's in reach, I like to say, are signs and alerts, digital signs and alerts. And the reason they're in reach is because their price points have fallen dramatically over the years. They're also within reach because they're easy to set up, they're easy to modify, they're proven to be effective in catching people's attention and triggering moments of recall where they may just be too busy to be paying attention to their surroundings, but if there's a digital sign that's alerting them, all of a sudden there's danger, all of a sudden they're recalling the training, everything from pedestrian safety around forklifts to any type of other noise levels or air quality levels that people need to know about right away before they're into harm's way. So these are examples of signs that you may have in your facilities or you may have seen otherwise. So as you can tell, I consider this technology. It's not necessarily emerging technology, but it's within reach technology. There's oftentimes these devices can be controlled from the main office and updated remotely without even having to physically go to where the sign is. So therefore, that means we can place them on job site locations, remote areas of the warehouse, in break rooms, and with one click of a button at the safety manager's desk, update signs no matter where they are. Again, these are types of technology that will call attention if there's some dynamic where they can be updated versus being a static sign or a poster on the wall. It makes all the world of difference. If it looks exactly the same every day, then people get used to it. It's just like when you have a picture hanging on the wall in your house, and over the years you stop looking at it, but as soon as you move it to the other wall, all of a sudden you see it every day. So think about, when you're thinking about digital signs, think about signs that not only update dynamically, but also can look different. Our big flat screen TVs are a perfect example of a inexpensive technology that can be hung in many different places throughout any location, and information can be pushed to that's different every day. One of these digital signs that I really like is connected to forklift safety. And let's take a look at this overhead sign that calls attention to both pedestrian and driver safety.
It happens all the time. Hurried traffic moves through a facility crossing paths, creating dangerous situations. Warning signs and mirrors may help, but if just one driver or pedestrian is not paying attention, the consequences can be costly. For traffic detection in these areas, your solution is the Safety Signal Warning System from Right Height. Safety Signal lets drivers and pedestrians know that traffic is approaching from multiple directions. The sensitivity and size of each detection zone is adjustable to each application. Safety Signal actively detects oncoming traffic and immediately presents high visibility LED signals, either yield or stop. For even greater visibility, a bright blue signal lights up the floor. Safety Signal is easy to install. Plug it in and it's ready to go. Configure Safety Signal for any type of intersection: two-way, three-way, or four-way traffic. Here's how it works. If traffic enters the detection zone from one direction, the other directions see an amber yield signal. If traffic is detected from two or more directions, a red stop signal is presented to approaching traffic, the remaining directions see yield signals, and the blue light illuminates the floor. If traffic approaches from all directions, all approaching pedestrian or motorized traffic is presented with a red stop signal and blue light on the floor. With the Safety Signal, you'll improve productivity while protecting your equipment, products, profit, and most importantly, your people. The Safety Signal Warning System, only from Right Height.
I mean, that is just a great digital sign to have out in any warehouse or on any particular facility where you need to call attention to cross traffic and especially forklift safety. We've seen those all across the country in different locations, and people really do find them very effective. Let's talk a little bit about wearables. This is an interesting factoid, is that 1 in 5 Americans now owns a wearable technology. And this is just, if you think about it, is very staggering. So we're talking about all different types of technologies, from a smartwatch to maybe some type of step counter. These are the types of wearable devices that we'd be referring to here. But so many times when people think about emerging safety technology and we bring up the concept of wearables, they immediately gravitate to, oh, well, not enough people that work here have it. You'd be surprised if you start asking the question, how many people have a wearable technology and does it support this type of application? You'll be surprised at how many people do. And if they had access to the application and they knew it was going to help keep them safe and injury-free on the job, they would probably install it on their device. So let's take a look at a few devices that are becoming really very popular. Obviously, the smartwatch. One of the things that's happening with smartwatches right now is just fascinating to me, is that not only is it monitoring health and fitness and all those kinds of things, but it really is helping people on the job site with its geolocation, helping to keep track of people that are moving through the plant facility or moving through a construction site. It's got the ability to, if you don't have your phone out, and maybe you're not allowed to have your phone out, there's different ways to have messages display on the watch when you perhaps are in harm's way. There's different ways that the watch can vibrate and send you signals that something is going on that you need to pay attention to. So when you need your hands and you need to be working with them and you're not supposed to have your phone out, things like smartwatches are extremely helpful. If somebody's walking a job site and they trip and fall and they've hurt their ankle and they can't get up, a lot of the new watches have fall detection, and they can tell when somebody has gone from a standard walking position to a down on the ground position. Send an alert to an accountable person that's going to go out there and find them. And so when we start to see these smartwatches drop in price, you can get into an Apple Watch now with geolocation for a couple $100. Not everybody needs to have one, but maybe high-risk positions. Think about those individuals that spend time by themselves walking a job site or work late at night in a facility without too many other people around. So these might be the exceptions rather than the rule of everybody having that type of watch. Another wearable is simple. It's the light up vest. A lot of people wear standard construction vests. There's a variety of different types out there. Just really depends on what the job is that you're doing. Not all vests are rated equal. So you want to make sure that the type of vest that you're using is appropriate for the task at hand and meeting the appropriate safety requirements. But you can almost always find any type of vest that you want for that particular situation with rechargeable lighting in it. And it makes all the difference in the world. I personally wear one of these when I ride my bike. I ride my bike all the time, and I wear a vest especially when it's starting to get dark and I see other bikers coming towards me the other direction without a vest on, and it's amazing how long it takes for them to get into view and really realize that there is somebody there. These are relatively inexpensive, and there's all different brands to pick from. One of the other items that's a wearable that I think is very interesting, and I actually just saw this in my neighborhood not too long ago, post a storm in the middle of the night. There were electrical line workers out down the street wandering around with them, and it looked very ominous. It almost looked like some folks from another planet had landed. But the visibility that these people were working there was astonishing.
We're always around heavy traffic and heavy equipment, so not being seen is pretty dangerous.
There's a lot of stuff up here that can get a guy hurt. 90% of our work is to set it up to do it safely so everybody can go home.
We got traffic going by out here, you know, we need to be visible to the traffic and to other people.
It's like being in a lit room.
It's been like a guardian angel, man.
Just to give you a quick glimpse at that, it really is not only increasing productivity because people can see much better around what's around them instead of fumbling with holding up lights or going back to the truck and working under a headlamp and things like that. But more importantly, the visibility it creates for a worker that's out in the field and for oncoming traffic to know that they're there and potentially in the way of the vehicle. We want to make sure that doesn't happen. This is one that I'd like to kind of frame in as out of reach for most, but it's certainly very interesting to take a look at. We're seeing versions of this crop up in all different types of industries in construction and manufacturing. And this is the exoskeleton. This is to help give people more stamina, more extra human strength for longer periods of time. They are a series of motors, and they had these at Ohio Safety Congress, not obviously this year, but last year. They had them for people on their legs and or for people who needed to be able to sit down periodically without having a chair and have it simulate a chair. And I found it to be very fascinating. But the whole objective with this emerging technology is to reduce the wear and tear on your joints, reduce the probability of injury from sustained position. Like think about somebody who hangs drywall. They're constantly working above their head, constantly lifting heavy tools, constantly lifting heavy pieces of drywall and mounting them. Think about people who are using grinders. Think how heavy they are and how long they're standing in a particular position each day. Well, there's things that we can do. There's technologies like this that can help them to sustain work environments much longer.
This is the ExoWorks industrial exoskeleton. And the point of it is to let somebody who looks like me take something that looks like this, which is a Milwaukee grinder, and hold it over their head for a long time as though it didn't weigh anything. Exobionics grew out of a defense-funded project to make a load-carrying suit for military applications. But the company's best known for a spin-off, a powered therapeutic exoskeleton that people who are paralyzed or who've suffered strokes can use. Now the company's going back to its roots in a way, with an exoskeleton built to make difficult human jobs a lot easier. Exo isn't the only company getting into exosuits, but they are one of the first to build one aimed more at construction workers and special forces out there.
Put a large metal bit in the front.
Sure.
Yeah, and then work it, actually.
And now we see
more than 5 minutes.
Now we see why I went into journalism.
That's right. That's right.
That's crazy. I got to try out the suit at Exo's Richmond, California factory. It's adjustable for people from 5'4" to 6'4". It weighs about 16 pounds, and it feels a bit odd at first. If you could not twerk in this, just wouldn't. I couldn't twerk without it. I wouldn't recommend it, let's say. The Exo industrial suit's made for heavy industry and construction. It's less Tony Stark's Iron Man armor and more the power loader from Aliens.
Back then, they had the idea of exoskeletons for industrial applications, and the interesting thing about that is Aliens was scheduled in the year 2020, so in our minds, we got 5 years to get to that.
But the exosuit is still pretty far from Ripley's Alien Slayer. This thing is actually completely analog.
But our industrial exoskeletons, our first round of products, are actually passive. So there's no electronics, there's no batteries, so there's nothing to be plugged in, which makes it pretty exciting.
But then how do they fly and shoot laser beams from the columns?
There's no laser beams. We don't have the arc reactor yet, like Tony Stark. No. So what are
seems like a missed opportunity. I just have to say.
Yeah. Well, we keep asking for it, but no one's developed it yet.
Totally different. Up is now completely easy. Like I would stay like that for hours. Now. I could even heft a 40-pound grinder like a sword.
And the whole premise is that we provide a parallel load path. So we have the tool, there's a gravity balancing arm that mounts to the chassis, and that chassis has a load path that goes all the way to the ground. So the user inside doesn't feel any of the weight. The payload goes down through the structure to the ground, and they're just there to maneuver and move the tool around.
But there might be competition soon. Salt Lake City's Sarcos is developing a powered full-body suit. But what I want to know is, will it have a fencing function? I could fence for hours.
So as you can see, very interesting technology that can literally change the dynamic around an individual's work environment and the wear and tear on their body and dramatically decreasing the probability of injury. These types of emerging technologies are going to become commonplace in our built worlds, people who make things and are highly susceptible to injury or injury over sustained work environments. So let's take a look at cell phones as we wrap up and go into the end of our presentation today. One of the things to remember, which is really interesting, well, this isn't one thing to remember, but this is something that I find very interesting. Certainly remember it though and share it. I found this fascinating when I did research and just recently updated the presentation for today, is that worldwide more people now own a cell phone than a toothbrush. I mean, we go into facilities across the country on a regular basis, and what we find is that there are just people that say, oh, you know, well, our workforce doesn't really have that many web-enabled devices, and our workforce really isn't used to using that kind of technology. But then I like to point this out, this kind of stuff out, is that I think it's maybe you just haven't asked them or you're underestimating them. 81% of Americans now own a smartphone. These smartphones, if an employee knows it's going to help keep them safe on the job, they're willing to use their own device at a particular company. They're also willing to follow the rules around when not to use it. And all of these smartphone applications, if you just tell the employees what's going on, for example, the application tracks when you use your phone, so only use it for safety training, or only use it when you're supposed to be using it, and people will follow the rules. Let's go ahead and advance here. Quick question. Do you have a web-enabled phone? Do you have a web-enabled phone? And if you, I always think this is funny because the answer should typically be yes all the way around because you're participating in the polling online. And let's go ahead and
do we have to re-log in for that, Tony?
Somebody replied, so you could try to re-log in. Just text TD126 to that number again, and you can see what happens there. It should be okay. All right. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe there's something wrong with the polling right now. Somehow a response got sent in. Okay, so let's see if it's back on track now. Are you allowed to use your cell phone at work? A or B? What we typically find when we're talking to folks out there is that most people are allowed to use their cell phone at work. There's different times of the day where they're not allowed to use it, which definitely is a company policy that we find a lot of times out there. I'm just going to skip the polling questions in case something's going wrong with that right now. But what we find mostly is that most employers will allow people to use their cell phone at work at certain times. Of course, they're not allowed to use it when they're driving. Of course, they're not allowed to use it when they're working the manufacturing line, but they are allowed to use it when they step away from the manufacturing line. And these kinds of things will help them to stay safe and or increase the quality of work that they're doing. There's all different types of mobile apps out there today that are easily accessible and very cheap to license. Things from behavioral safety that track how you're lifting. People have these belts that you can wear now and that talk to your mobile phone that record how many times you're bending over throughout the day. And they're trying to isolate lower back injury issues, tracking near misses, microburst safety training like the Ving platform. Here's one that just came out and skyrocketed, which was a COVID-19 tracer app. It's something that gets enabled on a smartphone. And basically, before you enter into work, you answer a series of 3 questions. It tells you if you're clear, then you can go into work. Then what happens throughout the day is it tracks your proximity with other people at work. And if I were to call in today sick from COVID-19, very quickly the employer can isolate the 20 people that were working side by side with myself today and notify them that the person that they're co-working with has been called off sick with COVID-19, so they can stop the spread and control it. The Ving app is a great way to deliver push information for microburst safety training. This is in the advent of COVID-19 right now. A lot of people have gone from in-person training to short bursts of training spread over a period of time. We've seen a huge increase across the country in our customer base in moving from daily safety talks into a virtual safety talk through a microburst safety training platform like Ving. And then the safety manager walks around and talks to people more individually about the information throughout the day. We talked a little bit about the augmented reality and being able to scan an environment when you showed up at a job site. What we've done at Ving is we've introduced safety microburst QR codes. And these are stickers that you can put on shelving units or electrical units. And all somebody has to do is scan the QR code with their phone, and it will automatically retrieve appropriate information. We like to say it's the right time, right place information for the right task at hand. So let's say somebody was getting ready to lift these boxes and load them onto a shelf. They could scan that QR code and get a 90-second video on how to avoid lower back injury when lifting a box of that size. Very quick reminders. Or safety sheets. If you're going to open this electrical box, here are 3 things you need to know about the dangers before you open it. And what's happening is these apps are automatically tracking people's interaction, so you can get an alert when somebody's getting ready to do something the wrong way and potentially reach out to them to avoid. So let's go ahead and wrap up today's call with things to think about. First, know that when things go wrong, you need to have a plan. Don't always assume the technology is going to work 100% all the time. It may be simple as nobody recharged it. So you have to have a plan for when things go wrong. If the technology is available, how do you get it back on track as soon as possible? And how do you isolate what went wrong with it so that you can have as much uptime as possible? It's very rare that the technology goes down these days. Most of the time it's because there's a power outage or something like that, or maybe there's a special circumstance with a storm. And so this is just your plan B. Establish a time and place for the use of the technology. We talked about cell phones. They can create a great advantage in safety, training and avoiding safety issues for your employee base. But there is a right time and right place. So when you think about implementing a new technology, ask the provider, do you have the top 5 things I should consider when implementing this to help me establish a time and place for use? Almost all of them will have that. Remember, technology needs a home. Your company is making an investment, whether it's a wearable or it's a big thing that gets mounted on the wall. You need to prove to people that you're taking care of it. So have a plan, have a 3-step standard operating procedure of where the technology stays when it's not in use, how it's stored, how it's recharged and ready for the next person. Don't be afraid of change. I always say stick your big toe in the water and try something out. Try the virtual reality, try the augmented reality, and know that it might fail the first time around. But what your job is to do is learn from that failure and make an adjustment. Maybe it was the wrong application. Maybe you should be thinking about using it with different people or a different type of job that somebody does in your particular company, and give it a few tries before you just abandon and move on. Make sure you include an employee feedback loop. Always make sure that you're reaching out to the people that were involved in using that technology, asking them their top 5 questions every single time, and recognizing any trends or any opportunities to, 1, improve the use, as well as improve the effectiveness of the technology or environment. These kind of data points are going to help you to go to the leadership and ask for more budget to expand your program into other areas of your company. And number 6, always include your upper management. Don't just go ask for the opportunity to do it and then go off and do it on your own and forget to update them. Make sure that you've built in periodic checkpoints that you can show them that you're paying attention to these 6 things on a regular basis to protect the investment and to make sure that the company gets a return on making the investment in the technology. Post-webinar, I will forward on to Christy an ebook that recaps a lot of today's discussion, as well as a copy of the presentation. I believe she's also recorded it so people can come back and spot watch it later on. But thank you so much for having me in today. Greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak again with you and your organization. Have a great day, everybody.
Let's see if there's any questions.
As of right now, but I just wanted to let people know that I've done VR training, and it's quite, we actually did one, company brought in construction where you did fall protection. So you put your harness on, you literally put the harness on, you went up an elevator and then walked out, you attached your carabiner off, and if you didn't, and then you somebody asked you to bring a tool to them, 3 out of 4 times I fell, and believe me, it's
It was easier to fall in that environment.
There were actually people. There were actually people that did it, and you could almost see how it really felt like you fell. So it really was, and to this day, I remember it very well, and what it was like. You know, people actually dropped to their knees when they did that. So VR is very, very much the cutting edge technology, and it can be used for any. And they also talked about kind of what you were talking about, augmented, but with VR,
Yeah.
where you would walk out to a plant and say, okay, there's a machine hazard, there's a machine guarding hazard, there's a nip point with this machine. You know, if you locked it out, you know, this would be where you would lock it out, all as part of a new orientation or a new equipment review. It was unbelievable. I thought the VR technology is incredible.
It's just fantastic. And the thing that's so cool about it too is that not only are you having that experience, but then you leave there and go tell other people. And as soon as you start telling other people about what a great training experience you had, those other people want to go to it. And pretty soon your safety culture becomes a little bit more contagious than a have to do it on Tuesday kind of thing.
Right. I thought one thing I wanted to also mention is you had talked about the QR code. I want to talk to some of the OSHA people and see if a QR code could be something as a lockout specific. So I don't know if they would allow that or not. It may be something they will eventually, but you know, if you use the QR code, would that be your lockout specific for that piece of equipment? So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, just as a side note, we have people using QR codes on equipment, and when they scan it, it retrieves a step-by-step approach to doing the lockout for that particular machine, or some type of short video. A lot of customers will shoot like an expert, like the guy or the lady who's been there for 25 years and knows how that machine inside and out. They'll shoot a quick video of that person doing the lockout tag out procedure and associate it with the QR code, so that people can see the expert at that company do it for them. And it's just all kinds of technology out there that's within reach.
Sounds like we need to get a standard interpretation on that one.
Yeah.
Because some of the OSHA, you know, it's all up to how the inspector sees it.
Yeah.
And as long as you get a standard interpretation on it, and I'm going to mention it to Ken Montgomery and see what his feeling is on his people, especially in the Cincinnati area.
Great. I'll follow up with you, Ben, on that, and I'll be interested in hearing more about what you find out.
Sure. Okay. I don't think we've got any other questions. Anybody else have any other questions that you wanted to let Tony know?
Anybody else have experience with any of these things he talked about? Oh, we have a hand raised. What does that mean? Do we let
her? You want me to click on allow to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
There you go, Melissa. You can. Well, can she talk?
Yep, she can now. She just unmute.
Oh.
Yeah. I just asked her to unmute herself.
Okay. Melissa, if you hover down at the bottom of your screen, there's like a little microphone. You can click on there and unmute yourself, and you can ask your question.
Yeah, you know, Christy, as host, you might be able to just do it for her.
Oh, I can? Okay. It says it asks.
Yeah. So she would get a, Melissa, you'll get a message that you could just click on and it would unmute
Okay,
you.
do it down there. Can you type in your question? Or were you just playing with your buttons? That happens too.
Yeah, that might have happened too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll assume you're playing with your buttons and
It says a
oh, it's a
mistake, so yeah.
Okay.
I know. I was on a Zoom meeting and I was playing with some of the features and I had myself a mustache and funky hat and then I couldn't get it off. I was just so yeah. Well, we appreciate your time. It's always interesting, the stuff out there, and people have to, I mean, it's the wave of the future, but I guess you got to just see what's in your budget. And but if anybody tries any of this stuff, let us know some of your feedback. We can share with the other members, whether you thumbs up or thumbs down to your fellow members. But if nothing else, I say we call it. We'll, I will pick a winner and email that. Well, not a winner. That's picking your nose, isn't it? I will pick a door prize winner and I will email that and a recording of this out either today or tomorrow.
Great.
So thanks, everybody. See you
Remember next month.
Yep.
Remember next month's topic. So, and invite as many people as you want. I mean, this is the thing that,
We all want to be
especially with,
healthy.
yes.
That's for sure. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.